All right, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to talk about classes and objects. So Python is an object-oriented programming language. Almost everything in Python is an object, with its properties and methods. A class is like an object constructor or a blueprint for creating objects. The init function. To understand the meaning of classes, we have to understand the built-in init function. All classes have a function called init, which is always executed when the class is being initiated. Use the init function to assign values to the object properties or other operations that are necessary to do when the object is being created. All right, so let's head over to our Jupyter notebook and let's make a notebook for Python classes and objects. Okay, so let's go to New Python 3 Notebook, and we're going to label this 14, and we're going to do classes and objects. Okay, and now let's create a class. Okay, so to create a class, use the keyword class. Okay, so we're going to do class my class colon return, and then we're going to do x equals 7. Okay, and then let's do print my class. Okay, now we're getting a whole bunch of errors here, and let's look at the syntax and see why that's going on. Okay, let's just type it out again. So we'll do class my class. Okay, and then we'll do x equals 5, print my class. Run that, and there you go. So now we get class main my class. Okay, so that's how you create a class in Python. All right, now let's create an object. So to create an object, it's going to be similar to the class. We're going to create an object named A1. So we'll do A1 equals my class. Okay, and then we're going to return this, and we're going to print A1 dot x. Okay, we'll run that, and we get 5. Okay, so what it's doing there is we set x to 5, right, in our class up here. And what we did here was we said A1 equals my class, which is the function. Okay, so we called the function, and then we wanted to print A1 dot x to see what the answer would be. And it turned out to be 5. Okay, because we're using the class and the object together in this example. Okay. Now the init function. Okay, so let's look at that. So the examples above are classes and objects in their simplest form, which are the two examples we just did, and are not really useful in real-life applications. To understand the meaning of classes, we have to understand the built-in init function. All classes have a function called init, which is always executed when the class is being initiated. Use the init function to assign values to the object properties or other operations that are necessary to do when the object is being created. Okay, so let's create an example of that. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's create a function where we're going to define the name and the age and the self of somebody. Okay, so we'll do class is person, and then the definition will be, we're going to do 2 underscores and then a init, and then 2 underscores, and then we'll do self, comma, space name, comma, space age, and then a colon outside of this. Oops, colon. And then I'll return, and we'll do self.name equals name, and self.age equals age. Now, if I were to run this right now, it's not going to do anything because we haven't given it any information. Okay, so it's just going to be, it's not going to run anything, it's not going to throw any errors. But if we do P1 equals person, okay, and we're going to do John, and then outside of that comma, because that's a string, right, and then a number doesn't need quotes. So then we'll do 36, okay, or let's do me, okay, let's do Josh, and I'm 35 instead of 36, okay, and then we'll print. So if we print, we do p1.name, okay, and then print p1.age, okay. Now when I run that, you're going to get Josh 35, and that's exactly the result that we want, okay. So that's how you work with how to create a class, how to create an object, and then work with those together to use the init function. And this is an example of that. All right. All right, now we're going to talk about object methods. So objects can also contain methods. Methods and objects are functions that belong to the object. The self parameter, the self, you can call it whatever you like, but it has to be the first parameter of any function in the class. Delete object properties. You can delete properties on objects by using the delete keyword, so del. Delete objects, you can also delete objects by using the delete keyword as well, the same abbreviation for delete. The pass statement. Class definitions cannot be empty, but if you for some reason have a class definition with no content, put in the pass statement to avoid getting an error. Okay, so let's jump into the code and take a look at that. Okay, so let's look at the object method. So let's insert a function that prints a greeting and execute it on the P1 object. So we've already created all of this here, right? So the only thing that we want to do is we want it to, we're basically going to do this. We're going to keep all this code right here, okay? And then this, we're going to comment out, okay? So we're going to keep the code, but we don't want it to execute, okay? So now when I run this, it's going to show nothing. And then I'm going to delete this cell just so that we have a clean code here, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert a function that prints a greeting and execute it on the P1 object, okay? So what we're going to do is def and myfunc, so my function basically, and we'll do self, colon, and then we're going to print in quotes, hello, my name is, and then a space for concatenation, and I'll hit space again, plus, and then space again, self.name. Okay, then we're going to do P1 equals person, and we'll do Josh in quotes, and 35. So comma 35. I know it's right below, but I want you to practice. And then we're going to do P1, my function. There we go. Now I'm going to run this. Hello, my name is Josh. Now let's go one step further. So let's say that we have hello, well I have hell, sorry. Hello, my name is Josh. And let's do plus, and let's do a space. I am space, and then we could do self.age. But let's do plus. Self.age, okay? So let's take a look at that now. Okay, so what it's doing here is when we print this, so it's saying that this is not correct, okay? So if I just leave it the way it is, and we just do plus, and we do self.age, let's try that. Nope, okay. So we'll just leave it with the example. Okay, so I'll run it again, and there we go. Hello, my name is Josh. Okay, now we could print another one. Print I am self.age years old, period. Okay, let's try that. Okay, that's fine. All right, so we'll just delete that and then let's run it again. And we'll stay with hello, my name is Josh. All right. Okay, so we fixed that. Now we're going to talk about the self parameter. Okay, so the self parameter is a reference to the current instance of the class. It is used to access variables. It does not have to be named self. You can call it whatever you like, but it has to be the first parameter of any function. Okay, so the idea here is you don't have to use the word self. You can use, you can use self object, self this, self that, whatever you want to use, you can use to get self. Now, I'm going to leave it as self because I don't think that you should be changing the name of it right now when we're just learning about it. But once you understand it, you're free to change it to whatever you want. So let's just change it for this example. So let's call it self object. Okay. And then let's print that. Okay, so let me undo this real quick. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go on a new line. And we'll just type all this out again and practice. That way we can kind of figure out what's going on. So let's do the similar code as up here. We're going to do class, person, okay, and then we'll do def init, and then my silly self object, comma name, and then comma age. Okay, so this is what we would put in the parameters. So right here. So once we fix that, then we can run this. So now I'll run it. So let's just do self object, okay? Yeah, and see, we don't have it defined here, so I have to make those updates wherever we have it typed in. Not a work. There you go. So this one I'm going to delete, and we'll just work off of the other one because I figured it out. So what I was doing wrong when I was doing this is we weren't updating everywhere where self was. So we had self here. This was the parameter there, or the argument, and then we had it here, and then also here, and then in these two spots. So the idea of just showing you this is you can label it whatever you want, okay? But again, I recommend just doing this. Self. Keep it simple is my point. You can certainly name it whatever you want, but I recommend to keep it simple while you're learning, and then once you understand it, then name it whatever you want. You know, go wild with it. You know, have a good time with it. Okay? You can modify. Now let's talk about modifying object properties. Okay? So let's modify the age of P1. Okay? So what we can do with that is we can do, so right now we set my age to 35. Okay? So P1 equals 35. But if I do P1.age equals, and let's say you want me to be 40, okay? Now when I print P1.age, it's going to say 40. So you've overridden what we did because I'm technically 35, but now you want me to be 40. Okay, so you can manipulate that a little bit and work with that. We can also delete properties. So to delete the age property from the P1 object, we're going to use the del command, okay, to delete. So let's do that. So we'll just do delete p1.age, and then we're going to print that. And it's going to show everything that we're running here, which is fine because I want you to see the order in which it's at. Okay, and it's going to throw an error. Okay, person object has no attribute age. Okay, that's the point of this. In this example, where it's meant to fail, right? You can also use this. Instead of doing delete p1.age, we can just do delete p1, okay? And then the pass statement. So class definitions cannot be empty. But if you, for some reason, have a class definition with no content, put in the pass, okay? So I can put in pass, and then let's run it. And the only time that it's not working is here, okay? So now if I run it, now it works. And why is it working? Because I ran a pass statement to avoid getting an error, okay? So that is classes and objects. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.